As I mentioned briefly at the beginning of Mass, we had a leadership day this past weekend, yesterday in fact, focusing on leadership, but not just in the way normally we may think about leadership as a function, because all of us in our careers, in our homes, in school, or wherever we may find ourselves, we have a function and we do things. But leadership is not just about a function. I asked the 30-some people who came to us yesterday to take a step back and reflect upon the mission of Christ, the leadership of Christ, and how their own leadership connects to that same mission and how they're called to help fulfill that mission of Christ. I'm proud to say that this past week has been filled with many such blessings in this respect, that our Alpha program, now going into its 5th year, I believe, has about 24, 25, 26 participants in it, along with our 16, 17 leaders in our program. That's nearly 40 people a week on Saturdays and Mondays, weekly, for 11 weeks, coming together to reflect on spiritual matters, to speak to one another in openness and honesty. 40 people in our parish and from the neighboring area a week. Our Connect group, which is our post-Alpha group, which asks people who want to take a step further, who are inspired by that experience, now to go deeper into topics of their own interest. We had 33 people this past Wednesday in that same way, reflecting on a spiritual matter, and then in openness discussing with one another how they've come to understand, how they're attempting to integrate those things into their lives. And then likewise this past Saturday with 31 people for a reflection on their own leadership here in the parish. Now it is true that some people attended all three, but I believe I estimate about 60, 65 of our parishioners and neighbors from neighboring parishes and in the surrounding neighborhood on the northwest side here together, investing their time into their personal and their spiritual growth. And that's important. It's important that we see leadership not only as an activity going outward, but as an investment in ourselves to reconnect ourselves to the love and to the mission of Christ. I bring then to you two particular insights that I think are important to understand the mission of Christ. Because whether it is what you do, whether it is your leadership here at the parish, and for our 8th graders for your confirmation, the mission of Christ can be summed up in two primary things. The mission of Christ is exemplified by revelation and by freedom. Revelation and freedom. If you listen to the words of Christ consistently, what is he saying to us? He's revealing to us the Father's name. Before he was known as God, as Lord. But Jesus reveals that that same God and Lord is our Father. And in revealing the Father, he reveals the type of love that God has for us, not as a king to his subjects, but a father to his son and to his daughter. That is the love of the Father. And freedom, as it says in the introduction to the Gospel of John, that to those who believed in him, he gave the freedom to become the sons and daughters of God. Revelation and freedom. That in our own faith and in our own leadership, if we do not see our work, whatever it may be, as first revealing the Father, and secondly, allowing others the freedom to become sons and daughters of God, then no matter what function, what role we play here at this parish or in life, we're not fulfilling our purpose, our true purpose in life, to reveal the Father and to give people the freedom to become sons and daughters of God. This is of supreme importance. I asked our leaders yesterday especially to reflect on that dynamic of revelation and freedom and how it is that faith, the core of faith, the foundation of faith, is built on a choice, but not choice in the way you may think. I told our leaders, and for all of you here, your choice to be here today, anytime that you choose to pray, anytime that you choose to draw upon strength in your faith, is not your action first. Remember, we must change the way that we look at faith. if faith is about us and my choice and what I do, then faith is willing to change just as much as our desires or hopes or dreams may change over the course of our lives. Rather, anytime that you have faith, anytime that you choose to pray, anytime that you choose to worship or whatever it may be, it is your response to the God who has loved you first, to the God who knows you before you even knew yourself, to the God who knows you better than you know yourself right now. You are responding to the love of the Father, the very love of the Father that Jesus revealed by his words, by his miracles, and most importantly, by his cross. That is the love that is speaking to you today. And anytime you choose to connect with your faith, remember, our Lord says, it was not you who chose me, but I who chose you. So when you choose to act out and live out your faith, you are responding to the Father's love. And consider the most important things that you've done in your life, the most important things that motivate you to be the person who you are. Is it merely an act of the will, a power that you initiate on your own? Or are not the most important things that you've done in your life a response to a love that you can see, a love that you are willing and desiring to respond to? So remember, your faith is not a choice as if it's your power. It's a choice in that it's a response to the God who loves you. And when faith becomes a response rather than an act on our own, it changes the way that we look at leadership, prayer, and service. Because we must always connect every desire that we have to the God of love who calls us day by day. Lastly, I ask then, having our own leaders reflect on that dynamic and that notion of leadership, to look at their own leadership, not as a quality, because in many of our parishes growing up, we thought of leaders as those 4 or 5 people who distinguished themselves, who ran everything, who did everything, and after a while, it was only those people doing it for decades. That's not the leadership that we're looking for in the church. That's not the leadership that Christ wants us to do. There will always be people who distinguish themselves. But the leadership that Jesus calls us to is that freedom to look deep into your heart and what motivates you to act for your children, for your parents, for your siblings, for your classmates, for your community, for your country, and for the world. What motivates that? And those qualities that you have, some of you have been able to build careers, make a lot of money, buy the things that you've wanted to do, maybe even lifted your family out of poverty, whatever that is. But is that the reason God put a gift in your heart? Simply to secure your future and accumulate things? The reason God put that talent, that passion in your heart is to raise up other people in love, to reveal the love of God, and to have them in themselves recognize the freedom and the power they have to live in the love that God has for them. In that way, for our confirmation students here, I want you to think about your confirmation again, not as you choosing or confirming your faith, but are you responding to the love of God that speaks to you? And how will you respond? What is your response to that love? Most of all, the leadership of Christ was not for everyone to see him as a cultic leader that they were amazed by, but that he empowered Peter and Paul and the apostles, men and women of his age and of every age, to have the freedom to love in the way God wanted them to love. And so in your confirmation and in your maturity and in your growing up, will you respond to that love, and will your leadership and faith be defined by the people that you raise up by your love, rather than being recognized for the talents that you have? For all of you here, for all of you near and far, will you see your faith, will you see your talents as that which will raise people up around you, especially in the community of faith? Rather, than as a title or a reason for people to be amazed at you. Because it's not enough that we ourselves are acknowledged or have something secured for our future. It is far more noble. It is far more in revealing the Father's love that we allow other people to feel the same love and freedom that we possess right now. So I simply ask you all that in our leadership in the parish, and as I call upon day by day for new leaders, I'm not asking you to take over a role or a task. I'm asking you to be open to the love of God and to give what makes you passionate and alive to this parish, that it will raise other people up to recognize that same power and freedom within them. Everything can be accomplished, and everything begins first by God willing it. Remember, it is not we who chose him, but him who chooses us.